Look like Brianna, Stewart, and Sabrina Ionescu has broken their silence about this massacre they team just had.
The defending champions just got absolutely demolished on their home court, and the aftermath was pure gold. Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart stepped up to the microphones after getting outplayed by 14 points, and instead of making excuses, they did something that shocked everyone. Their honest assessment of Caitlin Clark's performance left no room for debate about who runs this league. Were you surprised by how gracious the Liberty Stars were in defeat, or do you think they were just being politically correct after getting schooled?
The performance we saw from Caitlin Clark today against a team that started off the season 9-0, a team that is the defending champions, might have been the greatest women's basketball performance we have ever seen. That might have been the greatest showing from a WNBA player we have ever witnessed. That was spectacular. The shots she hit in this game, y'all, were something like I've never seen any other women basketball player ever come close to hitting. There are NBA superstars out there that I have not seen have a game with that.
Let's set the scene here because context matters. When you're witnessing greatness, get acknowledged by other greatness. The New York Liberty walked into this game as the defending champions, sitting pretty at the top of the standings, probably thinking they'd handle a fever team that had been struggling without their star player. Instead, they got served a basketball lesson so thorough it came with a diploma. Caitlin Clark returned from her 5-game injury absence and immediately reminded everyone why she's the most important player in professional basketball. 32 points, 7 assists, and enough highlight reel moments to fill a Netflix documentary. But here's the kicker. After getting absolutely worked by Clark and the Fever, Sabrina Ionescu and Brianna Stewart didn't retreat into excuses or downplay. What happened? They gave Clark the flowers she deserved.
Like we go on runs, they do as well. They're a great team. So I don't think it's defeating. I think obviously we know what a great shooter she is, and I think we just gave her too many easy ones. Obviously, she has great range, and her ability to get her shot off is really impressive, especially with missing some games. And so obviously on a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court, healthy, feeling good, because obviously it's important for them, but
when asked about Clark's performance after missing multiple games, Sabrina didn't hesitate to give credit where credit was due. She acknowledged Clark's shooting ability, her range, and most importantly, her ability to get her shot off despite the defensive pressure. That's not just being polite, that's recognizing elite talent when you see it, even when that talent just embarrassed you on national television. But Sabrina went further than just acknowledging Clark's skills. She expressed genuine happiness about seeing Clark back on the court healthy. On a personal level, I'm really happy to see her back out on the court healthy, feeling good because obviously it's important for them. But just for her, I'm happy she's back. That's not the kind of statement you make about someone you consider just another opponent. That's respect for a player you recognize as special. The most telling part of Sabrina's comments was her admission that they gave Clark too many easy ones. Think about that for a second. This is coming from one of the best shooters in WNBA history, acknowledging that Clark's shot-making ability is so elite that even slightly open looks become automatic makes. When Sabrina Ionescu tells you someone has great range, you listen because she knows a thing or two about bombing threes from impossible distances. Brianna Stewart's approach was equally respectful, but came from a different angle. As one of the league's most accomplished players, someone who's won championships and MVP awards, Stewart could have easily deflected attention from Clark's performance by focusing on team breakdowns or officiating. Instead, she acknowledged the reality that they got outplayed by a better team on that particular night.
Reaction with one another. Stewie's laughing. Caitlin knows it's ridiculous. Just out there having a good time with it.
Stewart's body language during the game told its own story. When Clark hit that logo 3 with Stewart defending her at a distance, instead of showing frustration or anger, Stewart actually smiled and seemed to appreciate the shot. That's the reaction of someone who understands they just witnessed something special, even if it came at their team's expense.
And we had our moments. We got back into the game. We had that run when Stewie was guarding Caitlin Clark, but then they executed well, and we had so many breakdowns on defense, and they made shots. They really punished us on that end, making 17 threes from 35. It was just too wide open. So
the defensive breakdowns that Stewart referenced weren't random mistakes. They were the direct result of Clark's gravitational pull on opposing defenses. When one player can pull up from anywhere past half court and make it look routine, it completely changes how teams have to defend. The Liberty found themselves in the impossible position of trying to guard Clark without leaving everyone else open, and they failed miserably. What makes these post-game comments even more significant is the context of the rivalry that media outlets have tried to manufacture between Clark and other WNBA stars. Instead of feeding into manufactured drama or taking shots at Clark's success, both Ionescu and Stewart took the high road and gave honest assessments of what they witnessed. The numbers from this game tell a story that even the most biased observer can't argue with. The Fever shot an absurd percentage from three-point range, with Clark leading the charge and her teammates benefiting from the attention she commanded. When defenses are so focused on stopping one player that they leave professional shooters wide open, those shooters tend to make their shots. Stewart's admission that they overworked their stars trying to keep up with the Fever's offensive explosion speaks to the psychological impact Clark has on opposing teams. The Liberty felt pressured to match the Fever's offensive output, which led to rushed shots and defensive breakdowns. That's not just basketball. That's one player imposing their will on the entire flow of the game. The coach's perspective added another layer to this story. Sandy Brondello didn't make excuses about missing players or bad officiating. She acknowledged that the Fever executed better and made their shots when it mattered. When championship-level coaches are giving credit to opposing teams without reservation, you know the performance was legitimate and impressive. The defensive statistics from this game are particularly embarrassing for the Liberty. They allowed 102 points to a team that had been struggling offensively without Clark, and 53 of those points came in just the first half. That's not just poor defense, that's a complete systematic breakdown caused by one player's ability to warp opposing game plans. Sabrina's comment about basketball being a game of runs was interesting because it acknowledged that the Fever's dominance wasn't just a hot shooting night or lucky break. She recognized that Indiana executed their game plan effectively and maintained their intensity throughout the game. That's giving credit for sustained excellence rather than temporary good fortune. The shooting disparity tells the whole story of this game. The Fever knocked down 17 three-pointers while the Liberty shot just 20% from beyond. The arc. That's not luck. That's the result of one team getting better looks because their best player commands so much defensive attention that everyone else becomes more dangerous. Stewart's reflection on team resilience was telling because it revealed how much this loss affected them mentally. The Liberty pride themselves on being championship-level competitors, but they admitted to struggling with the pace and execution that Clark brought to the game. When defending champions are talking about needing to look in the mirror after losing to a team that was written off without their star, that says everything about Clark's impact. The transition game statistics from this matchup were particularly brutal for the Liberty. The Fever generated 19 fast break opportunities compared to their recent struggles in that area. That's directly attributable to Clark's ability to push the pace and create scoring chances before defenses can get set. Stewart acknowledged this by noting how difficult it became when they couldn't get stops and establish their half-court offense. Ionescu's admission about their offensive struggles when they can't get into transition reveals how much Clark's presence disrupted their entire game plan. The Liberty built their identity around defensive stops leading to offensive opportunities. But when the opposing team is scoring at will, that entire system breaks down. Clark didn't just beat them with her individual performance, she dismantled their team concept. The free throw disparity in this game added insult to injury for the Liberty. Despite getting more foul calls, they couldn't match the Fever's offensive efficiency. Stewart's acknowledgement that they didn't get to the rim enough speaks to how Clark's presence on the perimeter made driving lanes more difficult to find and exploit. The coaching adjustments discussion was particularly interesting because it revealed how the Liberty tried multiple defensive schemes to slow down Clark and failed with each one. They switched everything. They tried zone coverage. They attempted to deny her the ball entirely. Nothing worked. When championship-level coaching staffs run out of answers for one player, that player has transcended normal basketball categories. Stewart's comments about team identity and knowing who we are were telling because they suggested that this loss forced them to question their place in the league hierarchy. The Liberty entered this game as defending champions and league leaders, but they left questioning whether they're actually the best team when everyone is healthy. The international perspective adds another dimension to these post-game reactions. Both Ionescu and Stewart have represented their countries in international competition and understand elite basketball at the highest levels. Their recognition of Clark's talent carries more weight because it comes from players who've competed against the world's best and know greatness when they see it. Sabrina's specific mention of Clark's ability to get her shot off highlighted something that separates elite scorers from good shooters. It's not just about making open shots, it's about creating and making shots under pressure, with defenders draped all over you while the game is on the line. Clark demonstrated that ability repeatedly throughout this game. The defensive communication breakdowns that Stewart referenced weren't random errors. They were the direct result of Clark's movement and decision-making, forcing defenders to make split-second choices that often proved wrong. When one player can consistently put 5 defenders in impossible positions, even championship-level teams start looking ordinary. The pace of play discussion revealed how Clark's return changed the entire rhythm of the game. The liberty are used to controlling tempo and dictating how games are played, but Clark's presence forced them into an up-tempo style that favored Indiana's personnel and game plan. Stewart's acknowledgement of this shows professional respect for Clark's impact on game flow. The shooting performance that triggered this praise wasn't just about made shots, it was about shot selection and decision-making under pressure. Clark consistently chose the right shots at the right times, even when taking what appeared to be difficult attempts. Ionescu's recognition of this shows an understanding of what makes truly elite players different from merely good ones: the team chemistry. Discussion became relevant because Clark's return immediately restored the Fever's offensive identity. Players who had struggled to find rhythm without her suddenly looked comfortable and confident. Stewart's observation about execution acknowledged that this wasn't just individual brilliance, it was one player making everyone around them significantly better. The defensive pressure that the Liberty tried to apply to Clark backfired spectacularly because it opened up opportunities for her teammates. Stewart's admission about giving up too many open ones revealed how Clark's gravity as a scorer creates advantages that extend far beyond her individual statistics. The game plan discussion in the post-game interviews revealed how thoroughly the Fever had prepared for this matchup. They attacked specific Liberty weaknesses and exploited defensive tendencies that championship teams usually hide successfully. Clark's court vision and decision-making were central to executing these strategic advantages. The momentum shifts throughout this game all seemed to favor Indiana once Clark established her rhythm. Even when the Liberty made runs, the Fever had an answer because Clark could create offense from anywhere on the court. Stewart's acknowledgement of this reality showed professional appreciation for a player who can single-handedly change game outcomes. The statistical dominance extended beyond just scoring, as Clark's 7 assists represented her ability to elevate teammates' performances. Ionescu's recognition of Clark's complete game showed an understanding that truly elite players impact winning in multiple ways, not just through individual scoring. The championship implications of this loss weren't lost on either Stewart or Ionescu. They acknowledged that losing to the Fever when Clark is healthy changes the conversation about who the best team in the league actually is. That's not the kind of admission defending champions make lightly. The respect shown in these post-game comments reflects something deeper than just professional courtesy. Both players recognized that they had witnessed a performance that reminded everyone why Clark is considered generational talent. Their willingness to give credit where credit is due showed the kind of sportsmanship that elevates the entire league. When defending champions openly praise the player who just embarrassed them, you know you've witnessed something special. Ionescu and Stewart could have made excuses, but instead they gave Clark the respect she earned through dominant performance. What did you think of their classy response to getting outplayed? Hit that like button, drop your thoughts below, and subscribe for more WNBA analysis that keeps it real.